Hello and welcome to On Point. My name is Matt Johnson. Today we'll be discussing a very hot button issue, medical marijuana. Why does the district attorney want to get rid of pot dispensaries, and are they even worth saving? Today we have with us James Shaw, who is the director of the Union of Medical Marijuana Patients. Thank you for coming on with us.
Glad to be here, Matt.
So last week, District Attorney Steve Cooley announced a plan to pretty much shut down the estimated 800 pot dispensaries in Los Angeles. How has the medical marijuana community responded to this news?
Well, there's been a variety of different responses. Some patient organizations have shut down. They've closed their doors. So if his intent was to do that, he was successful. Other organizations feel that they are legally compliant and they don't feel as though they have anything to be concerned about. My organization, the Union of Medical Marijuana Patients, is actually in the process of filing a temporary restraining order, seeking a temporary restraining order against Cooley from prosecuting legally compliant organizations. See, the district attorney came out and said that all dispensaries are illegal, and according to our understanding of the law, he is wrong about that. And so what we intend to do in the courts is to ask the courts to rule on what is a legally compliant organization to resolve this issue once and for all.
Why do you think he's been targeting medical marijuana dispensaries?
Well, that's a good question. Why is he targeting medical marijuana dispensaries? There's, the Proposition 215 was passed in 1996, and part of the proposition directed the Attorney General to establish guidelines for non-diversion. Well, it took 12 years for our Attorney General to finally come out, and it wasn't the Attorney General the whole time, but it took 12 years for an Attorney General to finally come out and make up guidelines for that. So basically what that's an indication of is that there's a lot of resistance publicly to patients using medical cannabis for medicinal purposes. And that can be probably traced back to the prohibition itself. The fact that for the last 70 years, there's been a prohibition against the use of marijuana across the board. And the federal government still persists on saying that medical marijuana, or marijuana, they say, has no medical efficacy, even though they have patents on file for the application of medical cannabis to different purposes that patients use it for.
So if the drug is legal in California for medicinal purposes, why is there such, why are so many people saying that it's illegal? Why is Cooley coming out and saying that these dispensaries are illegal? I think there's a lot of confusion about that.
Mm-hmm. If it's legal under the law, why is Cooley so set against it? Yeah. One of the challenges is that people don't understand the law. I don't believe that Cooley fully understands the law. Unfortunately, I hate to say that, because he is a well-respected district attorney. But there's been a lot of misinterpretation about what the law means, and we intend to have that solved in court.
Okay. So how do these dispensaries that he wants shut down, how do they work? Can anyone just walk in and pick up some marijuana?
No, absolutely not. The only people that can go into a medical cannabis dispensary or join a medical cannabis patient association is qualified patients, people that have seen a doctor and have had their condition reviewed by a doctor, and the doctor has determined that medical marijuana would serve their condition.
Now, I think the big conception about people going and getting these cards is that it's widely considered a joke. I mean, a lot of people say that all you have to do is say you have a headache and you can get a card. Do you have any concerns about the drug falling into the wrong hands?
Yes and no. First of all, there's been a common misperception about medical marijuana. When the law was passed in 1996, the way that it was posed was for seriously ill patients. And what most people thought was that that only applied to people that had cancer or AIDS. And in fact, medical cannabis serves a lot of other purposes. It serves a lot of other conditions. And what Proposition 215 says is that medical cannabis can be used for any other serious illness for which it provides relief. Now, there's lots of other serious illnesses, including glaucoma, insomnia, depression, and all of these things doctors are prescribing medical cannabis for. So while on one hand people say, well, there's, anyone can go in the door and get a doctor's recommendation, the problem is what they're really thinking about is, gee, there's a whole lot more people getting doctor's recommendations for medical cannabis than we originally thought would be going to see the doctor about medical cannabis when we first enacted this proposition.
I was doing some research and I found that marijuana has been around for a long time. We've been using it in our civilizations for a long time. Was it always considered dangerous? I mean,
and dangerous by governments? Was
yeah.
it always considered? I don't think so. My only, and forgive me, I'm not a historian, but my understanding of the prohibition is that it dates 70 years.
Now, they say, back to what's going on in LA, Cooley is saying that these dispensaries are operating for profit when they're not supposed to. Should dispensaries be profiting from this, and even are they profiting from marijuana?
Well, I'm sure that some people in the medical cannabis industry are profiting from their participation in helping patients, and that's an unfortunate thing. It's an unfortunate thing for two reasons. One is that it's against the law. The law, Senate Bill 420, which was the follow-up law in early 2000s, stated that nothing in the statute shall be construed to mean that people can make profit. And so patient organizations should be operating not for profit. If they're operating for profit, then they are subject to a law enforcement encounter.
But you say that just because they make a sale doesn't mean they make a profit, right?
Well, that's right. And the reason why I say that is because the Senate Bill 420 states that what patient organizations and associations do basically is immunized against prosecution for sales. Sales, distribution, transportation, all of these are in Senate Bill 420.
And I guess what Cooley wants to see is no cash transactions made?
That's right. He seems to be making an equation between profit and cash transactions. But what's actually happening at many patient organizations is that they are reimbursing the organization for the organization providing the medicine to them through cooperative and collaborative cultivation projects. And so there's a whole thing that happens behind the scenes that's not necessarily at the dispensary location, where there's cultivation happening, there is trimming of the medicine, there's preparing it for bottling, there is testing. So there's all these things that go on before it actually arrives at the place where the patient picks it up. And there's a cost associated with that, and the patients typically, although not always, but typically will pay for their proportional reimbursement of their membership dues. They call them membership dues. They will pay for that at the time that they pick up their medicine. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes people pay their membership dues in advance, or they have some credit, or they're doing some work exchange. So there's a variety of different scenarios. But just because cash is crossing the counter in a transaction does not necessarily indicate that there's profit.
Okay.